Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fire Force Chapter 303, the Epilogue, Part 1, our second to last chapter. When we last left our heroes, so what I think happened is God / potentially the future Lord Death of Soul Eater fame takes away the 8 pillar powers, and with them, all of spontaneous human combustion. There's some weirdness, as it heavily implies that Death takes a power from Benimaru, who never was a pillar, and he says there's one that's still outside of the world, despite the fact that Sumire and Amaterasu should both be outside of the world. And the way there's the star background when God says that kind of implies that Arthur is the 8th pillar or something. I don't know. Either way, with that, the world is basically brought back to normal. Like pre-original Cataclysm, basically. Some things still stay the same. Mari is still a demon, but she's still gonna be her son's mom, even as the sort of demon thing. Inca makes a kind of uncomfortable joke about her and Iris both being Shinra's girlfriends that Shinra sort of tries to laugh off. But bringing a quick callback to the creeped out smile from way back in the beginning of the series that we kind of dropped. And with that, it's time to go back to the 8th. And we have this cute scene, this cute sort of reunion scene, as we have what I referred to as like what would feel like would play in the credits of a final episode. As Shinra comments on how much the world has changed, he sort of asserts his desire to one day rescue Arthur, and thinks about how much better his life has been since he joined the 8th and found hope, as he puts it. It's real cute. Even if, again, the whole Soul Eater prequel bit has never really worked for me on any level. But yeah, with that said, let's dive right on into our penultimate chapter. Chapter 303, A World Without Spontaneous Human Combustion. And our picture here is kind of the Soul Eater's soul tied in with, like, Maki's Pusu Pusu and Mera Mera kind of design with an arrow pierced through it. Life carries on in a flameless world. We have our stand later page, our go by the manga page. We open in one of those more kind of gothic looking cities that we saw in last chapter's credit sequence. And we see Juggernaut and Tamaki on what looks like a date. Tamaki, I'm curious if the loss of flame powers also got rid of Lucky Ledger lore. Because her outfit is, for one thing, far more conservative than what we normally see from Tamaki. She's got a like ankle-length skirt going on there. I'm just hoping that we don't have any of those, it's the end of a manga, and authors tend to go back to their, like, running gags at the end of a manga, but I'm still holding on to hope that, like, we don't end the series with the Tamaki Lucky Ledger lore gag. Also, seeing Juggernaut out of his armor, it's kind of weird. He's a lanky boy, and I never noticed just how lanky he was. Alright. Anyway, the two of them are walking around on, again, what seemed like a date, and Tamaki says, "It's hard to believe there are towns like this other than Tokyo now." But Juggernaut tells her, "Before the Cataclysm, the world was a much bigger place." And Tamaki thinks, "It's so peaceful without human combustion. It doesn't seem real." And then she sort of pauses there. And Juggernaut just says, "I'm so happy to be able to go on a date with you like this, Tamaki-san." So yeah, they are in the end having their little date. And Tamaki looks up, kind of bashful. "Yeah, I'm not complaining." And Tamaki goes on, "With the Fire Force disbanded, I wonder how everybody's getting on." Okay, so it does look like, one thing we learned is A, the Fire Force is disbanded, which makes sense given that, like, there's no more human combustion to combat. But also it does kind of seem like this epilogue is sort of a checking in on everyone just to, like, see where their stories end up kind of thing. A bit more, what I would refer to in One Piece as an overview chapter over a focus chapter. Maybe. We're still only 2 pages into it. Anyway, Juggernaut just laughs. "I'm pretty sure they're out on an expedition or something." And Tamaki looks up at him. "I heard that even though everyone's lost their pyrokinesis, some people are a whole lot stronger than before." And Juggernaut responds, "Doesn't really apply to us, unfortunately. It's the people with powerful souls who are stronger now." Okay. Alright. What does it mean that Juggernaut and Tamaki don't have powerful souls? Like, who decides a powerful soul? I don't know. Like, I don't know. We'll see exactly where Okubo is going with all this in the last several pages. But we cut to Obi, wearing this, what looks like a bit more of a traditional Japanese robe with the word death emblazoned on the back, looking over a kind of deserty landscape. General Commander of the World Heroes Force, Obi Akitaru. So there is a new quasi-military thing in place of the Fire Force. I do like they have not kept the X on Obi's neck wound. They just sort of like stitched it up, which, as someone who hates things touching my neck, kind of creeps me out. But whatever. Obi's name is now in Japanese order. Family name first, the scan later notes. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like, I mean, Obi as like a name always was more Japanese than some of the other members of the cast, like more than Arthur or trying to think of people like Arthur or Burns or really anyone from Company 1. So it does kind of make sense that, like, you know, if people are changing their names to a more traditional reading, Obi does make sense to be one of them. Though I'm kind of, I don't know, there's something about that given what we know of Fire Force's world so far, seems kind of weird to me. I don't know, let's see how it goes. Anyway, Tamaki thinking about Obi, to think that someone like General Commander Obi could rip up the earth with one hand now. And then you have people who are already crazy strong, who are stronger than ever. I mean, Obi could already basically do that without being powered, but okay. Let me see Benimaru. World Hero Forces Vice Supreme Combat Commander Sagamiya Konro. World Heroes Forces Supreme Combat Commander Shinmon Benimaru. They seem to be like secondary to Obi, but only barely. And they're, of course, super strong now, I bet. And also, maybe getting rid of SHC has gotten rid of Tefrosis? So Condor's not dying anymore, maybe? I don't know. Benimaru's like chewing on a toothpick in the same desert that Obi's at. And Tamaki, back in, this might actually still be Tokyo, actually. But she looks back up to Juggernaut. When you said they're on an expedition, what are they actually doing? And Juggernaut tells her, this planet doesn't consist of Tokyo anymore. There's a whole world out there. And we see some more people, Licht and Vulcan and Hinoa, who are also in those same robes, out on the expedition with Obi. Vulcan's reading something. General Commander Obi, I've located the position of the giant monster that appeared. Okay, so they're still fighting. There's still things to fight, which is kind of interesting. Like, if Shinra could make his perfect world, why make giant monsters be a part of it? Other than, like, they're just kind of cool, I guess. And Victor picks up a massive serpent, 100 meters in length, just like the other day. What a world Shinra-kun created. So they are actually drawing out that, like, why did Shinra make this sort of thing? And Obi adds on, speaking of, where are Shinra and the others? And Victor tells him he's scouting ahead, about 20 kilometers out. And then we check back in on the Company 1 gang. Kareem and Hoyan and Rekka. Hoyan and Kareem are in the what was it called? World Heroes Force robes. But Rekka is not. Rekka's in like casual clothing. He's seemingly been forgiven for his whole trying to destroy the world thing. Their friendship sort of reinstated. As they sort of like greet each other. Rekka, Kareem! And Rekka smiles at him. I appreciate you seeing me off. You off duty today? And Hoyan tells them, the troops are already on their expedition. And Kareem sort of looks at him. So you're really leaving? I've got a big world to see. Rekka's like gung-ho as the Rekka he pretended, or as Rekka kind of always was, though maybe a little bit, I'm presuming a little bit less evil. I'm trying to remember, like I remember there was some very particular view of their friendship that Kareem had in the aftermath of the Doppelrekka fight. And I don't quite remember how that played out. But yeah, their friendship seems to be restored now that Rekka's no longer trying to destroy the world. The road of valor waits for no man! And then we see Kurono and Nataku, who are also there. Nataku's now wearing the sort of like sweater vest and shirt and tie, kind of like middle school, like rich kid clothes. Like you might see on a like Gozabora era flashback Kaiba Brothers sort of thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! But Kurono turns to Nataku. Oh good, it looks like he's leaving. And Rekka turns to see Nataku. Hey Takun, you coming with? And the Rekka of Nataku's mind pops out of Nataku's mouth, and Nataku's just not happy. Nataku's never been happy, and he deserves better than what he's gotten. Yeah! And then we come back to, or we change tacks to it looks like a cafe or something, where Hibana and Iris are. As Hibana asks, Shinra isn't back yet? And Iris tells her no. He's still chasing her. Okay. That's a weird bit, because we know that Shinra is off in the desert with the World Heroes Force, given what Obi says on page 9. But he's chasing a her. Could he still be looking into the Evangelist? Because the Evangelist still feels like it feels like at one point there was a backstory plan for the Evangelist. Back in China, when we saw her enter into the world from the Rift, she had this sort of enmity with the Woman in Black. And all of that just sort of disappeared at some point. Or maybe chasing her is referring to, like, the Evangelist is despair personified, and the despair kind of escaped when Shinra kicked it a couple chapters ago, maybe. I don't know. He's still chasing her. And Hibana just sort of, like, blushes and smiles. I know you two are close, but I'm happy that my idol is a hit with so many ladies. He's the hero who revived the world. It's only natural he'd be popular. And Iris reacts, Nason. But I thought that you liked Shinra-san. And Hibana just goes on, he's my idol. A true fan will let their idol get away with anything. That's not healthy. As Iris calls out, don't you think that sounds a bit twisted? And Iris sort of explains, he's a hero to everyone now, so it's not like I can keep him to myself. And I know there's more to life than love. And this might be, this is actually still Iris. The speech bubble looks like it's coming from Hibana, but it might just be like on the far side of Hibana and just like crossing over Hibana to get to Iris, maybe. I know there's more to life than love, and that it's stupid to get worked up over romance. And Hibana sort of like needles her. But Shinra-chan is another story. Hey, he just went chasing off after her again. And I wonder when he's going to come back. We still don't know who the her is, though. But then we see Shinra and Ogun in those World Hero Force robes. Shinra tells Ogun, the huge beast is over there. And Ogun just comments, can you believe it's over 100 meters long? I mean, I'd expect he would, given that Shinra did kind of create the world. And it's interesting that, like, Ogun is not giving Shinra any shit for the whole creating a monster they have to kill. I don't know. Shinra just comments, crazy stuff. And Ogun does turn to needle him. You really made a hell of a world for us. And Shinra just grins, fun, right? Where's Arthur and Excalibur? And Ogun just tells him, waiting at the base of the mountain. So Arthur came back! Arthur just sort of came back without us getting to see all that. Okay. That's a thing that happened. Because last chapter kind of implied that, like, getting Arthur back would be Shinra's next big mission, like, post-series or something. Kind of in the way that, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, assuming 5 had been the finale, left the, like, rescuing Fitz plot up to the future before it got 2 more surprise seasons, right? If anyone's watched that show. Like, that was sort of what I imagined would be Arthur's thing. You know, in the future, Shinra goes to rescue Arthur, and we just kind of don't get to see that or something. But apparently not. Anyway, Ogun goes on. He said he had a little business to take care of. And Shinra comments, should we meet up with him? He might not be coming back this time if we leave it to him. It took so long for him to come back from space. So we might actually get a bit of a flashback into what happened with space. And also, how long has it been since the Cataclysm ended? But then we see Arthur and a very clear Soul Leader Excalibur in their little Hero Force robes. So again, I'm at this point like halfway through Soul Leader, like midway through the Capture Baba Yaga Castle arc. But I'm like vaguely aware that Excalibur's backstory ends up being fairly important later on, and I'm curious if this like clashes with that at all. Mainly because I'm desperately holding on to hope that this whole thing does not just loop back into Soul Leader, because I would not like that. But anyway, the two of them are staring off into the mountains, and we see a full-on dragon behind them. It's a little bit unclear, because it's referred to, the beast they're hunting is referred to as a serpent, right? Back in the Obi and the Company 8 guys scene. And like an Eastern dragon might be a serpent, but that's a Western dragon. So I'm curious if that's actually meant to be dragon. Come back from the dead when Shinra revived everyone. But Arthur looks up at the dragon, and the dragon just flies on by, and Arthur lets out this little heh. And it's not quite clear if he's chasing that dragon, or if he's acknowledging it as like a companion, or what exactly the deal is between Arthur and this dragon. But Shinra and Ogun come up to him. Arthur, are you done? And Arthur turns back. Yeah, just had to give a proper hello. And Shinra looks down at him. Oh yeah? We face a Hydra next. Don't let yourself get worked up. And Ogun just turns on Shinra. Worked up my ass. That thing's a nightmare. And Shinra tells them someone might actually die this time. Okay. Well, can they still die? Like, wasn't the whole thing, didn't Shinra take away death by making death so personal or something? Like, that's the thing about Shinra's New World never quite understood, is that, like, death is no longer really a thing, right? People's death wounds don't actually kill them. And so, what does that mean for the concept of death? I initially assumed that maybe death only comes from, like, a weapon and a meister, like we sort of see in Soul Eater, but that hasn't really been brought up at all. So I just don't fucking know. I do not fucking know. Anyway, Ogun looks down at Excalibur. What do you say, Excalibur? And Excalibur looks up at him. I have just seen it. You will die. Death's visage will loom over you until you pass. Like, is that really how Soul Eater Excalibur ever talked in the past? This just doesn't quite feel like the same backstory. Or the same story of Soul Eater Excalibur. I don't know. But we do see a proto-form of the famous Excalibur face. It's not quite as extreme as Excalibur face. As Shinra and Ogun just reacted, man, what the heck? He's just like Arthur. I don't remember Arthur talking about death's visage will loom. Well, I guess the sort of dramatic medieval speech pattern is very Arthur. And Shinra looks out to a mountain in the distance with smoke pluming from it and comments, I bet it's curled up on that mountain over there. And then we have Ogun commenting, we've got to hurry this up and get Deputy Commander Hinawa back home. Otherwise, Maki-san and her dad will light us up. And Shinra comments, right? Are Maki and Hinawa together now? Because I've never really liked that, considering how, like, Maki, when she first met Hinawa, was, like, very young, right? She was, let me see how old she's supposed to be. She's 19 now, but she met, like, that flashback where we first see her and Hinawa together was, like, 5 years ago. Which puts her at being, like, when they first met, to being, like, 14, to Hinawa's, how old was Hinawa 5 years ago? According to the wiki, he would have been 23 at the time, which is just fucked up. Even, like, 19 and 28 is kind of weird. But whatever, let's keep going. Anyway, Ogun goes on. I mean, aren't there a bunch of those monsters scattered everywhere now? And Shinra comments, even I don't really know what's going to happen in this world. So there's no point wasting time worrying about it. And Ogun is just not really happy with that response. Like, why the fuck did you build this world if you don't know anything about it? And yeah, Ogun goes like give Shinra crap. Says the guy who created all this. And I do like at the end having like the Shinra Ogun Arthur bond. A trio that like we sometimes felt but never quite got to really see them be the series' main trio. I like getting to see them spend time together. I know why we waited so long to get the Shinra Arthur Ogun flashback, because there's some big reveal. It's very hard to tell that backstory genuinely while leaving out Yona sort of influencing Pawn about Shinra being a devil. But I do wish we had gotten to see more of this trio, because they're really fun. Anyway, since I created all this, it's what I do. And then we see this like high-heeled boot come down in the background. We see a woman with what might be like a stereotypical witch hat. We only see her like the nose to like chest area. If it isn't Dumb, Dumber, and Dumbest, you're too slow. Is this Inca? We see Shinra, Ogun, Arthur kind of shocked at her arrival. You had me worried. And it is Inca. I want you to keep chasing me forever. And Shinra just looks at her. Inca. Human combustion may be gone, but the world is in an uproar. Catch the girl causing all the trouble. Next time, the conclusion. Fire Force will be on the cover and have a lead cover page. To be continued in Epilogue Part 2, The Hero's Tale, the final chapter. Okay. So, I'm still piecing together how I feel about the epilogue. Now that we've seen this new world a little bit, there's some things that don't quite sit right with me. Part of it is perhaps more of a meta point. It's interesting, i.e. not very good to me, that we see, almost every male character we see is part of this, world hero force or whatever. Rekka isn't, but he's still off to, go have adventures, and Taku and Corona are still just sort of in whatever fucked up relationship they're in. But then, apart from Inca, every single female character seems to have retired, which is not great, especially when you tie it into that whole strong soul thing. And there's also Juggernaut, who's also seemingly retired, admittedly. But there's just something about this doesn't quite sit right to me. That, Iris and Hibana are stuck in Epilogue Land, drinking tea and talking about love. Tamaki's on a date. Maki is, only mentioned in reference to her boyfriend, ? It does feel like every single, besides Inca, who we'll talk about in a bit, maybe, it does seem like every other female character is, in the epilogue, solely defined by their relationships or something, which doesn't quite sit right with me. Especially Maki, who is always presented as being, so strong, to have her presence in at least the first half of the epilogue. Admittedly, there is still a second half, so maybe I should save my critiques for there. But to have a character like Maki, who is so strong, both emotionally and physically, have her entire presence in the first half of the epilogue related to wanting her man to come home, that just feels bad. It feels stupid and bad, and I don't like it. I don't know. It just does not at all sit right with me. But if you can ignore that, and I imagine there are many people who can, I'm not really one of them, but there is still interesting things here. I'm not quite sure how I like these new things, and presumably whatever exactly Inca's up to will factor into that. I don't know. The witch hat makes me think maybe Okubo's building up Inca to be the queen of the witches. I don't know, or the progenitor of the witches or something in Soul Eater. As I've been reading Soul Eater, I have sort of noticed Inca has at least some physical similarities and some broad plot outline similarities with Kim in Soul Eater. How they both sort of start out, are they both sort of very, very different routes, even as barely into Kim's story as I am in Soul Eater. And that, Kim is sort of tricked into joining the villainous organization and then is sort of brainwashed, whereas Inca does it of her own free will. But they both have that sort of changing sides. You think they're going to be on your side, and then they swap to the villains. And they have the same sort of they have similar haircuts, so their hair colors are pretty different. And now we have this final reveal that Inca is a witch, or seems to be similar to a witch. And there's something about the shadow even on the upper right leg part of Inca's outfit here that looks almost like a vector arrow that Medusa would use. Maybe I might be looking too much into that one, but it is kind of there. Excuse me. So yeah, I'll hold off any thoughts on Inca until we get a bit more information as to what exactly her deal is next week. Though that does seem to be what Iris is referring to in the, he just went chasing off after her again. Which does, tying all the way back to the end of the Fifth Pillar arc. The bit about, Shinra telling Inca, I'll see this through to the end. I'm not going to stop until, I get you back for the whole betrayal thing. And in the end, he's still chasing after her. Though I'm kind of curious what exactly that has to do with How exactly Inca's creating all these giant monsters? Because the blurb here says, catch the girl causing all the trouble? I don't know. And it's almost like there are maybe too many questions here for an epilogue. Like, I'm still wondering too much. When what I really want, what I think is the ultimate problem with Soul Eater prequel theory as a whole, or at this point, the Soul Eater prequel status, the prequelization of Fire Force, let's say, is that in the end, what I want to be focusing on at the end of a series is the series I've been reading for the past several years, right? I want to focus on the characters, maybe the themes. Instead, I'm constantly thinking, how is this connecting to Soul Eater? Is it connecting to Soul Eater? How much is connected to Soul Eater? And it's distracting me from the kinds of things I want to be reflecting on at the end of a manga. And I'll probably go into a lot more detail on that next week for the actual finale, that I do hope is at least a little longer than usual, just to, like, spend some time enjoying these characters and not working out whatever the hell Inca's up to. But I don't know. I think we shouldn't be wondering what are people up to in, like, the penultimate chapter of a manga. I think that's one of the many problems with Soul Eater prequel theory. It's also just that it, detracts from it makes the series about Soul Eater, not about Fire Force, which is a problem when you're writing Fire Force. It's just never been a good thing. But yeah, there are still some interesting things here. Again, the little bit about Obi starts using traditional Japanese naming structure is interesting, and I'm curious if anyone else does that, beyond, Conroe and Benny, who have always done that. But we don't really see if Hinoa makes the most sense, or Vulcan or Victor are also doing that. I don't know. And then, yeah, Nataku and Kurono's relationship has always been weird, and I've always wished, and part of me does wish they had done, like, something to change that, because it's fucked up. We all know it's fucked up. And then, yeah, I will just, the dragon thing, is that meant to be white-clad dragon? Is that meant to be Arthur's dragon? Or what's going on there? I don't know. I just don't know. I'm hoping next week ends up making me a little bit more positive about Fire Force's ending than I have been the past several chapters. Because, in case it wasn't clear from the almost 6 years I spent reviewing this series, over 6 years I spent reading this series, I love Fire Force. And I'm not happy with the idea of ending it on the kind of sour note that Soul Eater prequel shit has left us in. But that's where we are right now, so that's the world we have to deal with. So let's just hope next week it's just a better ending than what it feels like we're getting. So yeah, with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!